Hey guys, welcome to a new series. We're going to be talking about tutorials for Victoria 2. So here's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about using your national focuses and the population tab and screen and your provincial screen and how they all interact with each other. So this is going to be the first in the series of videos we're going to do, and I'm going to try and break these all up instead of having super long ones to show you guys off the individual mechanics and what they do, which hopefully will be more useful for a lot of you guys. So I am playing Vanilla Victoria 2, which Vanilla is going to be considered without any mods and with a Heart of Darkness and a House Divided installed, which realistically, if you do not have the two DLCs, Victoria 2 is kind of broken. So I'm always going to be assuming that you're just playing with those two DLCs and without mods. So, and this series is intended for people who are brand new to the game. If you've been playing for a while, but you still don't really know how to do stuff, then hey, maybe I can help you out a bit. But if you're a seasoned veteran, these videos probably aren't going to be much use for you. So let's start off, since we'll be talking about population today, is up here at the top, the population tab between the politics and trade tab. That tab is going to show us our population, obviously. Now, if you population in Victoria 2 is every one pop represents one adult male. It'll also tell you your total population, which is for Brazil is 6.03 million, which is always 4 times the population that the game gives you. Ignore that number. It's not important, and we won't bring it up again in this video. Our adult male population right now is Brazil is 1.50 million, or 1.5 million. Our adult male population changed by 18 in the last 2 days, but it's only been 1 day into the game. That number will go up and down depending on stuff. But again, we're not going to worry about that right now. So you have your militancy. This is the overall militancy in your country, and this is going to vary by a lot of factors. And having a low militancy in this number does not mean that you're not going to get rebellions. But having a high militancy overall most certainly means that you are in trouble. Over here where this brain is, we have the consciousness. The consciousness is, think of it as the people's desire for reform and voice in their government. People who have low consciousness in the game they won't get mad as much for having shitty conditions. And they don't really care about voting and stuff like that. Now the populations in the game that have it are going to be your more illiterate populations. Like for Brazil, for example. The people here in the Amazon who are very illiterate, they're not going to really care about what we do. They're not going to like it, but they're not going to be throwing too big of a fit about all of our government policies. While like an educated aristocrat in Rio de Janeiro, they're going to have a higher consciousness, so they're going to care more. And most importantly up here is going to be our national focuses. As you can see, it says we have 1.43 million people of primary accepted cultures, which if we look here, which you're wondering how I got here, I got it from right clicking on the map, which will bring you to this screen. We have Brazilian and Afro-Brazilian as our culture. We'll go over all this stuff later. So of our population of 1.5 million, 1.43 million of them are either Brazilian or Afro-Brazilian. And every 400,000 population you have of a primary or accepted culture gives you a national focus point. So right now we have 3.59 focus points. However, as you can see, we only have 2, and that is because our technology limits us. If we go over here to technology under culture and political thought, these technologies give us additional national focuses. Well, max national focuses. For example, if you research ideological thought, we'll get a 3rd national focus to use. However, if we research state and government, we could get a 4th if our population rises, but we won't, because until that hits 4, we will not have. We need more people, basically. So now that we've gone over this tab, which we'll talk about national focuses and how to use them later, we'll click on population and we'll go over it. So we'll click here in Brazil, which I'll undo a lot of this stuff. So if you click on this button, it'll show your entire country's population. And clicking on any of these individual individual populations here will take them out of the equation. So right here we have aristocrats down here. We click on that. Aristocrats are no longer shown. However, it does not change these percentages. And also, if you hover over, it'll tell you how many of them are in your country and how many of them have become that population or stopped. So over here, it'll show your workforce, and your farmers and laborers are going to be very similar, and they're going to make the most of your population. Slaves, you want to get rid of slavery as fast as you can. It's very harmful for your country. And however, they obviously do not earn any money. However, at the same time, they don't pay any taxes. So you indirectly get money through their production that they do, but you don't make any money off of them. And then craftsmen are people that work in the factories, and you have farmers, laborers, soldiers, and stuff, which we'll get to them all individually. Religion. So 95.3% of our population in Brazil is Catholic. 4.7% are animist. Unlike in other Paradox games, you really cannot change people's religion. Yes, people who are animists and stuff may convert, or the truth is they're really not going. It's not something we're able to do. You're not going to be turning Catholics into Muslims or vice versa. And you can, for the most part, just ignore the religion tab, as the nationality is more important, and it's fairly uncommon for there to be people of the same culture but with different religions. Although let me add, it's uncommon. It's not unheard of. Although for the most part, you can ignore it. Your ideology, which will show you the percentage of the people overall that are of that ideology. Nationality, which is pretty self-explanatory. And dominant issues. Right now, the single largest issue is outlawing slavery, but as you can see, a lot of people still want slavery allowed, and there's a bunch of other issues. These are just what these people consider their most important issues in your electoral vote. So this is the liberal, the political votes, and it represents the makeup of your upper house. Partially. This is how the elections actually are turning out and what those votes are going to look like. Now, if you notice, the ideology here is different from the electorate vote. And if we go over here to the politics tab, depending on your voting franchise and your voting system, that's going to vary. So if you have only landed, then even if 99% of your population is liberal, if all of your aristocrats are conservative, your electoral vote's going to be majority conservative. So size, pretty simple. Type, this is going to go over. This is just going to sort it by their job type. Nationality, this is important just so you can see who's all in your country. Religion, which, as I said, don't really worry about religion that much. What province they're in your country, that group of population is militancy, consciousness, ideologies, and issues. And you're going to see with a lot of the stuff in the population tab here, it's just breaking this stuff down into an individual level. Their unemployment, their daily income, which you would do stuff to adjust it, but I'll show you all the things in here. Their life needs, are people get very, 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 very upset if they do not have their life needs. Everyday needs, it'll make them upset if they don't have them, but it's not the end of the world. And luxury needs will make them happy, and you don't need to get them that. If they're part of any rebel factions, their population change, and their literacy. And if you hover over these on their cards, it'll show you how they change. Now, if we click on one of these population types, let's just click on clergymen here. Or if you even just hover over, it'll show you specifics at this population, whether or not there's going to be promotions or demotions. If we click on it, we can see more specifics about it. We can see what they need for all their needs. And then, where are they moving to? Their internal migration for your population, that's going to be where are they moving within your country. So are people from Rio moving somewhere in the Amazon? External migration is, are these people leaving your country? Which, a New World nation, you're really not going to have to worry about that much. In colonial migration, we don't have any colonies right now, But say we had a colony in Africa, it's gonna show you how and why, and how many of them are going to move to the colonies. And it'll show you how many of them are promoting or demoting, which if we go down here, we can see the percentage boosts for if they will. So the clergymen have a 12% bonus to becoming aristocrats, bureaucrats, 20% for bureaucrats, 5% for farmers, and 4% for officers. However, if the right conditions are met, it is possible that these clergymen could become clerks or craftsmen. Which if you hover over all of them, you can see the exact things that make that happen. And again, you can see their ideology and their dominant issues. It's not very often you'll need to click on this screen in particular, especially as you get playing, you'll just understand how things work. And we'll kind of get more to how that works. So let's click on one of these individual states. Everything I just said before still applies. All of these pie charts and all the information here. However, now it's broken down the only people in the state. So if you look at the nationalities here, it's about quarter Afro-Brazilian and the rest are all Brazilians. But overall Brazil, the percentages are different. Same thing if we click here on this arrow, it breaks it down to the province level. So that's going to be enough for this screen right now. Let's take a look here on the provinces themselves. So you're going to see a lot of the same information there as you saw here. As you'll see here. So we have Rio, and Rio is a slave state. So slaves can be in this state. Brazilian Amazonas is not a slave state, so there can't be slaves in there. That seems very obvious, and it is, but just something to keep tabs of. State administrative efficiency, your RGO presence for the number of aristocrats, our national focus button, which we'll get to in a minute. Party loyalty, which party loyalty is going to affect how people vote, and we'll talk about that more later when we go over national focuses. Province life rating, that affects your population growth. The higher that number, the higher population will grow, and people are more likely to want to move there. And the lower it is, the less people want to move there, and the less population growth you will have. And then I'll just show you who the controller is. Which, if you notice, it says controller, not owner. So if it's occupied in a war, it won't say Brazil. So this will show you what resources in the province, how much money they're selling it for, and what's the output. You'll also see that same number for how much they're selling it for right there. This will show you the amount of employees in the RGO, which RGO, that's just the word for the resources. Now, if you notice, it's right here, it'll show us that there's 31% of the employees in RGO. Now, that does not mean that 31% of the population of the province is in the RGO. As you can see, 63% of our population are farmers. Every RGO has a max output, which can be affected by technology. What this means is that 31% of the RGO size is filled. And again, right here it'll show us our population, province migration, and growth. Province migration, that's some people moving there, obviously. And if that number is negative, it means people are moving away. If it's positive, it means people are coming in. Similar thing here with the growth rate, which you hover over any of these things, it'll show you the things that modify them. Population growth is being affected by just base and province life rating. If the number's green, then that means that you're gaining people. If the number's red and is negative, then that means people are dying and you're losing them. So over here, this is the province crime fighting rate, which is affected based on your administration, and the average militancy, which, if you remember, as I said over here, the militancy of your whole country isn't necessarily a good indicator of what's going on at the local level, because there could be high militancy here in Rio, but the overall isn't affected. And if you click right here, this button will actually bring us over to the province view like we were in the population tab. We have our supply limit, and that's how many troops we can have here. As you can see, obviously there's 12,000 troops here in Rio. So our supply limit is 12, which can be affected by technology and generals and other things like that. And you have supply limit of 40, which means we can support up to 40,000 troops right there. And our cores, Brazil is obviously dealing with a core on Rio, However, some provinces in different countries will have more than one corps. So we can build forts, which forts will affect how long it takes to siege down the province. Naval bases, which support your boats, gives you colonial points. And you need higher level naval bases to build some of the higher level boats. And railroads. Railroads will affect your troop movement for that province and the economic output of factories in there. Which this button right here, if your political party allows it, will let you go to the production tab and build factories. Brazil's Partido Conservativo does not, so we will not be able to do it right now, but we're going to talk about this more in a different video. Here we can either enable or disable this province as a rally point, which if you pick either one, you can pick whether or not the troops merge, and then you can build individual army units here along with individual navy units here. Now, right here is going to be the most important thing for us, is our national focus. So we can remove focus, obviously, and we can build railroads. This does not directly build railroads. It makes capitalists more likely to build them. The immigration button, this does not make people more likely to move to our country. It means that of the people moving to our country, they're more likely to pick that state. Diplomacy, increasing tension. So the flashpoints, which I've hit the crisis button over here, you can see things that are flashpoint tensions. Actually, this is a great area. Here in Paraguay, we have a core here, so we can increase tension, and hopefully we could have a crisis happen. So there are countries. Brazil is not a good country for that to be an example where it's useful. Greece has a bunch of cores over here in the Balkans, and they're a great example of what you can do with the tension national focus. And you have promotions. Now, these will encourage people in your country to become a particular pop. If they weren't going to before, they still aren't now. But you can it boosts that positive promotion rate. But there's only 3 here I want you to worry about in the beginning. Bureaucrats. Click on bureaucrats, it'll tell you how many there are in your country. Well, in that province. Actually, the state. Which national focuses work on a state level, not province. You want your state administrative efficiency to be 100%. And bureaucrats can only be of your primary culture. And when you have a high enough percentage of bureaucrats to make that your efficiency 100%, this will turn red, which is when you should stop. Clergy. Clergymen educate your population. So what you want to do with your clergymen is if you have, which we'll focus this more on the technology video, if you have, as a general rule, 30% or less of your population is literate at the start of the game, like for example Brazil, you should try and bring them up to 4% intellectuals. That'll be the fastest way to educate your population. If it's between 30 and like 65 or 60% literate, you really only need to bring it up to 3. And if it's above 60, 65, you should only really bring it to 2% intellectuals. Because literacy will give you more research points. And the more research points you have, you can research technology faster. Clergy are probably one of the 2 most important ones for you to focus on. Soldiers. Soldiers are going to, they're who you fight with. You can max out around 5% soldiers per state. And one thing to make note of is you need twice as many of a population of a non-accepted or primary culture to actually make 1 brigade of soldiers. So, for example, if you want to make 1 brigade here, it doesn't work out exactly like this, but for example, you need 3,000 Brazilians or 6,000 Amazonians, just as an example. And your bureaucrats are going to be important because they affect your overall administration and the state administration, which affects the promotion of other pops, your crime fighting rate, and for your taxation efforts in the country. Which one little note I forgot to say is that for building railroads and forts, if you don't like to, if you actually it actually shows you here that hold control and you do it, it'll build all the provinces in the state. The rest of these promotions, I want you to ignore. Capitalists can be useful later on once you know what you're doing, but if you really know what you're doing, you don't need to do it at all. And the others just aren't that useful. So production, this will just encourage people to build certain industries here. It can be useful, but I kind of want you to ignore it. And party loyalty. So let me click to the party loyalty map mode down here, which is like this little ballot box. So you can pick party loyalty here. As you see, everything's neutral for the most part. But I'm going to use the United States here as a good example, because they're one of the areas in the game where it's predetermined. So if I click here in West Virginia, you can see that here in Huntington, 39% of the people are liberal, but there's a 15-point weight towards people being liberal. Now those numbers don't really seem to correlate at all with each other. And if I go over here to Philadelphia, 20% of them, they have a 20-point push towards liberal, but they only have 24% of their population actually being liberal. Why is that? The voting focus, national focuses, only make people more likely to vote for that party. So if you go back here to the population tab, it will affect the electoral vote. It will not affect your ideology. So they are generally not useful at all. And you should really ignore them, as you could really be doing something better with all of your national focuses. So guys, I hope that this was a good start if you guys know how to play Victoria 2. Victoria 2's UI is pretty hard to use, and it's kind of sad that you need a video just to explain to you how to just manage your states. And I really didn't even go that much depth. I really just meant on how to use everything. And I plan to get more videos out that go into more and more in depth of the certain things for Victoria 2, things such as industrialization, diplomacy, war, technology, things like that. The things that, because I mean the game tutorial doesn't work like every Paradox game. And hopefully I can make more of you guys who are struggling with Victoria 2 better at the game. So guys, if you liked the video, please like the video, or I guess disliking it works too if you hate the video and my guts. I always love reading what you guys have to say. Please leave a comment, especially for these tutorial videos. If you have any questions, if I didn't go anything clear enough, or if you have suggestions for later videos, I would definitely love to hear it. And if you want to see more of my content, especially these tutorial videos, please remember to subscribe. And I will catch you guys later. Peace!